I remember the first time I watched Demon Slayer. It was on a random night back in December of 2020. Toonami was on and season 1 of Demon Slayer was playing, specifically the episode where Tanjiro and Nezuko are fighting that water demon that likes to kidnap girls. I wasn't into anime at the time. I had tried to get into Attack on Titan a few years prior, but didn't get past the first episode. But this was different. I couldn't take my eyes off the screen. I watched the whole episode and patiently waited a week for the next one. After watching that episode, I knew I needed more. I downloaded Funimation, got a 1 month subscription, and watched all of season 1 in about 3 days over my winter break. Demon Slayer sure knows how to keep the viewer hooked, doesn't it? With those brutal, annoyingly good cliffhangers. Okay, one more. Alright, just one more episode. Okay, for real, just one more. Before I knew it, I had finished the whole season. One of my favorite things about Demon Slayer is the art style. Of course, the animation is amazing. We all know that already. But I seriously just love how the characters are drawn, specifically their hair and eyes. They're all so unique and expressive. Everyone's personality is drastically different too. There's only a handful of notable characters in Demon Slayer, and it's a relatively short manga, but you're guaranteed to remember everyone and everything I did. I'm a huge fan of sword fighters and characters that use elemental powers, and that's pretty much half the characters in Demon Slayer. I'm a huge fan of dark fantasy too, and I guess you could call Demon Slayer that. It's not exactly sunshine and rainbows. After finishing season 1, some months went by and I had kind of forgotten about Demon Slayer. Mugen Train came out, and I put off watching it for a few months, but one night, I randomly decided to cut it on. And just like that, I had fallen in love with Demon Slayer all over again. I sat there with drool falling from my mouth, unable to take my wide eyes off of the spectacle that was Akaza versus Rengoku. Of all elemental powers, fire is definitely my favorite. So when Rengoku or Tanjiro are on screen fighting, it's always a pleasure to watch. Rengoku didn't get on his train thinking he would die that night, but during his fight with Akaza, I feel like he had a moment where he just kind of contemplated and accepted the fact that his death was coming, switching from fighting to survive to fighting to kill Akaza by any means necessary, which he sadly fails to do, but it sets up for one of the most hyped fights later on. After watching Mugen Train, it wasn't too much longer until season 2 came out. At this point, it was official. Demon Slayer is the greatest anime of all time. Argue with a wall if you disagree, really. Tengen immediately became one of my favorite Hashira after his impressive display against Gyutaro, and his sister Daki is one of my favorite demons for reasons. She can pull a might here any day. I'm such a fan of how pretty yet creepy she looks when she's pretending to be a human, and the twist of another, more formidable demon being inside her had me on the edge of my seat, or on the edge of my bed in this case. Gonpachiro, Zenitsu, and Inosuke all taking Daki on together sends chills down my spine every time. Shame fights like this didn't happen more often in the manga. I feel like we should have seen our boys going all in together more. And did you know this fight is based on a real life event that happened in the 90s? A real life entertainment district burned down. I'm a fan of little details like this. After it ended, I wanted more so badly that I decided to read my manga. This was my first time reading a manga, so I had to get used to reading the whole left to right thing. Or right to left, yeah. Once again, I was hooked. It almost felt like cheating in a way, like everyone else was stuck on the entertainment district arc, while I got to read ahead and see what would happen next. Of course, it's not cheating, but that's just how I felt as a first time reader. I read through the Swordsmith Village arc. It's not my favorite. I'd rank it just above the very first arc, but still a very enjoyable read nonetheless. Though I feel like this arc would have heavily benefited from some extended fights. Kyoko honestly just feels like a plot device to show how strong Muichiro is, which is sad because he has such a unique look and cool abilities. And I want to see more Zohakuten and Wood Dragons, and of course more Mitsuri for reasons. In this arc, we see Tanjiro getting stronger. His training is finally starting to pay off, and he can fully handle himself against upper moons now. Tanjiro gets me kind of emotional. Like, this is my son. I love seeing him evolve and grow. He really means a lot to me. And Nezuko is my daughter. Some say her conquering the sun is an asshole, but I don't think so. She comes from a family of sun breathers, and the blue spider lily grows near her house, so maybe she's come into contact with it before. Moving on, we have the Hashira training arc, which is surprisingly one of my favorites. My second favorite in the whole series, actually. Even though it was short, it was fun, and Ufotable's extended scenes really made me appreciate it even more. Can we talk about Muzan's entrance? Easily the coolest villain in anime. Fuck your Sukuna, fuck your Murata, fuck your Frieza. We glaze Muzan in this house. final episode, a work of art. The calm intenseness of Muzan and Ubuyashiki's conversation, the slow build up to the literal and metaphorical explosion that is the last few minutes of this episode. Just look at this. And Demon Slayer's OST does not get enough appreciation. Like, are you hearing what I'm hearing in the background of this episode? Actually, incredible. It's a moment of shock the Hashira have as they realize this is their final battle. The way Tanjiro is the first to pull out his sword, it's enough to make a grown man cry. In the manga, the Hashira entering the castle was like one page, and you didn't even see them. It was just Tanjiro and Muzan. But in the anime, a whole 3 minute scene. A fantastic start to what is without a doubt the best arc in Demon Slayer. The Infinity Castle arc is the peak of the story. Everything has been building up to this last, final night. Starting off, we have the revenge match between Shinobu and Doma. I'll be honest, Doma isn't my favorite character. I don't find him to be that appealing, and his death isn't even satisfying since he doesn't care. Still hyped to see him in action though. I'm expecting those ice effects to be crispy. Next up, we have our second revenge match between Zenitsu and Kaigaku. Serious Zenitsu is the best Zenitsu. He's easily a top 10 character when he isn't screaming and crying. The embarrassment he's about to hand out to Kaigaku is crazy. Kaigaku has been ruining lives for far too long. It's about time someone puts this bullshit to an end. By the way, are you ready for this to be the best shot in the whole movie? I am. And finally, there's our third and final revenge match between Akaza and Tanjiro, who's joined by Giyu. I'm starting to notice a pattern with this arc. I love how Akaza smashes through the walls and the fight immediately pops off. He sure knows how to make an entrance. Rengoku would be so proud of our boy watching him hold his own against the very demon that killed him. At this point in the story, Tanjiro is pretty much the son Hashira. I know Gi was proud of him too. This is the same boy who was crying and begging in the snow 2 years ago. Out of all the three big fights in this arc, this one's probably my second favorite. I think there's some really sick moments and the character development here is pretty awesome. Akaza's backstory is one of the highlights of the manga in my opinion too. I really hope they up the brutality of Akaza utterly destroying the clan who killed Kyoki, though that's probably just wishful thinking. Hopefully the trailer for this drops soon. Kokushibo. Where do I even begin? I already have an entire video based on this fight, so go watch that. Can't forget about Nakime. I already know Ufotable was going to be flexing their massive budget and animation skills, with Obanai and Mitsuri hopping through the ever-shifting Infinity Castle. I think this is probably one of the coolest villain layers ever, especially when everything inside is moving around. Nakime is kinda crazy for being able to casually control this whole thing 24/7 with no issue, but she's not impossible to kill. It all leads up to this intense final battle. It's all been leading up to this very moment. Muzan shows off his final form and I think it's pretty cool. I love the white and red with all the mouths on his body. It's even cooler how he makes all the amateur slayers look like nothing, which they kinda are. Muzan gets a lot of hate for being a fraud, but that's kind of the entire point of his character. He's scared. He acts way tougher than he actually is. An unexpected explosion was all it took to get him a little scared. But let's not act like he's completely useless. He kept up with all the remaining Hashiras, as well as the rest of the Slayers, who are pretty much Hashira level at this point, while severely weakened too. If Tamayo wasn't there to give him that poison, they all would have lost. I love how hard the characters try. No matter how severely injured they are, or how much they're suffering, they always have the will to keep fighting. I know that's a common thing in anime, but I don't care. I'm here to glaze Demon Slayer. In Demon Slayer, victories are earned. Once a character dies, they're gone for good. Not even once does a character come back from the dead to save the day. Ignoring Inosuke, who kinda just cheated. Just makes it all the more impressive when Tajiro goes toe-to-toe with Muzan, after what might just be minutes after fighting Akaza. The parallels between him and Yoriichi are gonna make me curl my toes, too. I already know I'm gonna cry seeing this in motion. Like I said, that's my son. This trio has come such a long way, from fighting each other to fighting Satan himself. After a long, exhausting battle, Muzan finally goes down. Many people think the baby Muzan looked kinda stupid, and I can see why, but it's a fitting end since he was just a big coward. And now, we move on to the ending. I actually think it's really good. I've seen so many people say the ending for Demon Slayer kinda sucks, but Tanjiro simply getting to live with his friends is all he's ever wanted, really. And I'm a huge fan of the future arc that shows everyone's descendants and reincarnations living peacefully in the world they created. It's a satisfying but open-ended conclusion. The breathing styles are all traditional dances now, so they're not lost to time. So if demons ever return, someone will be there to stop them. This manga left a Demon Slayer shaped hole in my heart, and I don't think I'll ever forget it. At the time I'm recording this, the Infinity Castle Arc trilogy has yet to come out in theaters, and I'm so unbelievably excited. I can't wait to see more. Thank y'all for watching. One more thing. I'm recording this in my closet under a blanket, and I am pouring with sweat. Please like the video if you made it this far. I am on the verge of tears.